Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz Shauketaly.
And a splendid morning to you. This is Newsline, live as always, almost always, from the Newsfirst studios in Dawson Street in Colombo. And it's a particularly grim day out there. We've had lots of rain, so do be careful when you do venture on the streets. This morning we've got an industry expert. He's got at least 35 years of experience in his industry, and it really says something. And when we do say that he knows something or a little bit about the leisure industry, especially the hospitality trade, then there's no better person than Mr. Chris Quyn, who is the CEO of Fox Resorts and is here with us this morning. Very good morning to you, Chris.
Morning, Faraz.
35 years in the industry.
Yeah, 35 years is a long time.
Long time?
It's a brilliant industry to be in. Enjoyed every bit of it.
So, if I do my sums right, about 25 of those years has been spent under war conditions, and about 10 years has been spent
under peace.
Under peace.
Yeah, you're right. We started off with the Intercontinental, and at that time it was peace and everything was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
Then, of course, we had the problems which were there for 30 years, and we went through that.
Yeah.
And then over the last 10 years, everything was absolutely peaceful, and we saw a complete change in hospitality. And then, unfortunately, of course, what happened on the 21st of April darkened everything for us once again.
As an industry man
Yeah.
who's probably most of your working life has been spent in the industry,
Yeah.
how annoyed are you?
Well, I would say more than annoyed, we are saddened about the incidents that happened on the 21st of April. Saddened because, in my opinion, and it's only my opinion, that we could have avoided this. Seriously, we could have avoided this.
You could have avoided
the attacks in the hotels and the magnitude, the way it happened. Because
How would you have done?
see, 10 years of peace and everybody had relaxed.
Yeah.
And there was no reason to think that anything was going to happen or there was going to be a suicide bomber in any of the hotels or anywhere else. There was absolutely no reason to think, and nobody had that. But after the unfortunate incident or the incidents, and when we got to know days later that people were aware of it, I mean, that is the sad part of this whole thing. You know, if somebody,
the knowledge thereafter that there was knowledge.
yeah,
but that
and if
wasn't
somebody,
shared.
yeah, if somebody had knowledge, and if they had shared it with people in the industry or with the general public, for sure, the hotels, I know for sure the Shangri-La and the Cinnamon, it wouldn't have happened to that magnitude. Maybe they would still have blasted it outside the hotel, but they wouldn't have been able to take those, what they did, into the hotel. Because as an industry person and as a person who worked in one of those hotels, when this happened days later, I checked with the people who actually were in the front office, who checked them in. And their answer to me was very clear. They said, we thought these people look a bit funny, but 10 years of peace, and those people who have been through no war but absolute peace, it didn't trigger them. It didn't think that there was something wrong. It was just some odd person checking in who had cash. And who had an ID.
Cash.
Yeah, who had cash, who had money to pay for the room, who had an ID card which was valid. And when that happens, you don't question too much, because you're in hospitality. You're supposed to treat everybody as this, a VIP, a very important person. You're supposed to be courteous to these people, no matter.
That's all part of the aura.
Yeah, that's part of it. Had they been alerted and they said, look, the next 1 month or the next 1 week is going to be tricky, watch out, be careful, inform us if you feel somebody suspicious.
If only that ministerial daddy had shared that information with the public.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that was a bit of a sad thing as well, where somebody comes and says, a minister comes and says, he didn't go for mass because his father had told him, basically, be careful, something is going to happen. Unforgiving, isn't it, for us?
Well, I think that ministerial security details, members of parliament, and all that business, apart from the main people like the president and the prime minister, maybe the leader of the opposition, and maybe the speaker, and maybe the forces chiefs, they genuinely can justify having extra security. But the rest, I think those security details ought to be taken out and
they should be handed over. The schools have to be protected.
Yeah.
Maybe those security people should look after the schools, the religious, the places of worship.
Yeah.
The churches, the temples, the Kovil's, the mosques. They should be looking after that. You're right. I would say, the head of state, the prime minister, the head of the security forces. Those are people who need to be looked.
Need to be looked after.
Yeah. So you will have your security, but I guess every other normal minister shouldn't have security. Those security people should look after us, look after the schools, look after religious places. And they are trained to do it. They are professional people.
Yes.
When this happened, the parents were asked to go and check the bags of schools. What rubbish was that? Why couldn't the security forces take on that? Maybe they didn't have people, but if they released the people from the ministers, they would have been able to check that out.
Now, obviously, it's how bad has it affected the industry?
Well, it's taken the industry, it's brought the industry down. I don't think for the next 12 months, 14 months, anything will move forward. Yes, there are inquiries now for the future, but you will have just a few people coming in.
So the immediate impact, the impact has caused this immediate sort of cancellations and so on.
Yeah. Everything is, I think for us everything was cancelled, and you asked me to operator, everything is 90% on 100% was cancelled. Right. You may have a few people checking in, and you have people trying to promote it. I think it's time for the tourist board, the tourism ministry to get involved now. Yes, they are doing something, but it's time to, I would say now, June, July, August, especially June, July, start promoting this. As in promote Sri Lanka as a destination. Now thank God it's a bit quiet at the moment. Let's hope it will stay that way. Start promoting. Then you need to get a PR agency who can promote it around the globe. Ask them to promote it to the countries where Sri Lanka was very famous. And when that happens, then the private sector, the travel agents, the tour operators, the hoteliers will also promote it. When that happens, at least we can look at business from maybe November, December onwards. For the season,
yes,
we can bring people in for the season, because if nothing happens now, we lose out on the season, and then it's off season again, and then you're looking at something for the next maybe 1.5 years, nothing to happen.
Now, now Newsline, we do encourage you to send us your questions by SMS 0772 300 305, and the card coming up on your screen there. Do send us in your questions. Now, I'm told, and we did have the chairman of the Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority, Mr. Yon Jayaratna, on the program, and he told us that they had developed a package that would target the Indian traveller first, and then move on to the Chinese market, and then in time for after that it would be the European market based out of the UK. Now, that sort of thing is good news, is it? This is needed now.
It's good news, but there should be a target date to start. Good news is always good news.
Yeah.
But when it doesn't get executed on time, it does not become good news.
Right.
So there should be dates for it. It should be rolled out on those days, and they should move on from there on, so that.
So it must the talk and the waffle must stop.
Things
we
must
need
happen.
action.
Exactly, for us. Things must happen. No point, one minister blaming another minister.
The blame game's always going on.
It's a waste of time.
We need to
People are fed
focus.
up. People are absolutely fed up of this.
So we need to focus.
You need to focus and you need to get things done. And if you say you're doing something, you need to do it and then say you've done it.
Right.
And make it happen. It's enough.
And in that same context, I see the social media and the press and all that like full of information, the special deals that hotels are doing at the moment. Yeah. They've reduced their prices substantially. Does it gel though? Just the hotels and the inbound operators reducing their price, is that enough? Or what about the airline and especially the national airline?
See, hotels have reduced their prices only to keep the staff and to keep the hotel running, so that your ACs will run, your maintenance will go on. We won't send staff home. Because if you don't do a deal and you think, okay, I'm not going to even keep it at cost or slightly below cost, you have to close the hotel down.
Right.
And when you close the hotel, as you know, if you run ACs and then you suddenly stop it, you can have huge problems. Yeah. So the maintenance should go on. So the deals that are going for Sri Lankans around is mainly because they want the hotels to keep going. It's not to make profits. You can't make profits on those rates. You can't make profits. But that will ensure that the hotels still run until business picks up. So it is not that we are using Sri Lankans to come now just because there are no foreigners. It's not the case. Sri Lankans were always welcomed.
What was the sort of mix?
See, during the season, I would say 90% were overseas visitors, tourists, and then 10% were Sri Lankans. But Sri Lankans did travel, and Sri Lankans still travel. And whether it's good times or bad times, Sri Lankans will travel, and they're good travelers. Sri Lankans are really good travelers. They spend in hotels. They spend in hotels, and they have a good time, and they were treated well. So I think that this giving deals will encourage people to go to hotels and help the hoteliers out. I think in the same way, once business comes back to normal, we as hoteliers should think of always having a preferential rate for Sri Lankans. We should do that, because if Sri Lankans help the industry when the industry is low, we shouldn't say, okay, one flat rate for foreigners and tourists and Sri Lankans. No, we should have a preferential rate, a preferred rate or a preferential rate for
local travelers.
We should do that.
Now, looking inwards after the events of 21st of April, how does the hotels, how are they preparing to spot? I mean, I know you can't train them all to be security experts, but what are the steps that hotels would be taking now?
See, the hotel staff will be trained to look at everybody, and if they feel somebody is suspicious or some item is suspicious, to inform the security, and in turn the security department is trained along with the forces to take appropriate action. That's what they would do. They are not trained to see if there is explosive in your bag or not.
No.
You can't do
No,
that.
you can't.
But they'll be trained to say if there is a parcel, or if they feel somebody is suspicious around, inform the security. And then, of course, because there is now, the forces are in all hotels, whether it's the army, the navy, the police, or the air force, somebody is there.
Is it necessary to have such a big presence outside there?
It's not a big presence for us, but it's very important to have them there. Very important, because in case of something, we need to turn to them. They are the professionals. They are the people who are trained. And also if you look at from a point of, if there is no security, for somebody to be targeted is easier. Because if somebody wants to cause some harm and you don't have any security around, trained personnel, then you might want to say, let's go and do something. But if you see them, they think differently. So I think it's important, and I don't see huge amount of security. I think the security that's in the hotels, if you go to any 5-star, any other hotel, they're well trained, they're very polite, they don't cause any inconvenience. The hotels have done a brilliant job by not You know, they have huge, brilliant marquees.
Yeah.
So you drive in, even if the weather is bad, you still have no problem. They check it decently and they send you in, so you don't feel harassed. You feel that everything is kind of okay, and you need to cooperate to ensure that's done. But I think it's done very professionally.
It is. It is. It's. That's true. Now then, and there are some. Some properties, some hotels that are also part or very close to apartments and complexes and so on. How do these particular challenges, because they may share same entrance, for example?
Well,
what happens then?
If you're living in an apartment and it's adjacent to a hotel, you don't have much of a problem because you don't carry really bags in. So you walk through the scanner.
Right.
And those residents are known to the security. They will be checked through the scanner and they go in. And if you look at all the main hotels now, they've got baggage scanners. So the bags will go through the scanner. And it's not an ordinary security personnel who is looking at that. It's a professional person who is scanning the bags. So, which is a good thing. We thought that this would never happen, but it's happened and we need to go through it. And I think, it's part and parcel of life, and it happens around the world.
And then the global traveler is quite used to.
He's aware of
security.
it. I think he'll feel more comfortable that these things are happening, and we need to.
So it could be it can be part of the positive.
Yeah, we have to look at it positive. Of course, we lived in the lap of luxury where these things never happened for 10 years, and we could just walk in and out, and it was unreal. It was unbelievable, but it was so unfortunate.
But having said that, do we stop and say, well, it was unfortunate, and we carry on, and we're faced with this huge economic impact, or do we also say that we'd like to hold the people responsible for not sharing this information accountable?
I don't see the reason why this has not been done already.
Yeah.
But if somebody says they're aware of it, and they have to face and give us answers as to the public and the hundreds of people who died and the hundreds of people who were injured.
Yeah.
Why wasn't this shared?
Yeah.
It's a criminal offense. You were aware of something. Did you do anything about it? Or did you come out the next day or the day after with a smile on your face and say, I knew it? It's a sad day.
It is almost as sad as some of these people who gave very public interviews.
Without a morsel of sadness on their face. They just read it out normal. I saw that.
Yeah.
I saw that. People didn't seem that, that they felt the pain.
Yeah. I detected the pain in the president's voice.
Exactly. I also felt that when the president spoke over and over again of this, he was sorry for what happened, but it was very few people that spoke with sorrow in their voice. It was like, it happened, now there's nothing we could do about it. And then one blames the other, between the ministers and the opposition. They just blame each other. That's the thing that needs to stop.
Chris, I'm told that about 180,000 people work in the hotel industry.
Yeah.
What's the average, what do you think, would you hazard a guess, what is the average Colombo hotel service charge?
Colombo hotels range between 35 and 45,000. In the resort, during the season, it can go up to 65,000. There are times when it goes up to 80,000 in small boutique properties. So the average is, in the resorts, I would say you can take up to about 55 to 60,000 on an average. In Colombo, it's around 35 to 45,000 average. And it's not only that for us. If you look at the chain that is affected with this, the guy who supplies your seafood, your meats, your vegetables, he's invested in cold rooms because this industry was booming so much. He's invested in cold rooms. It's not at the hotel. The suppliers, the little shops on the street, the people who sell their batiks on the beach, the people who sell water by those little shops, they're all closed.
I spoke to some people who operate surfboard hire and surfboard services, surfing services in Weligama. They said it's just like ghost beach.
Yeah, yeah. You go down south, there's absolutely nobody there, and it's so sad. So people's lives have been affected.
If you took an average of 40,000 as the service charge,
Yeah.
And 180,000 people working in the hotel industry, that's 7.2 billion, 7,200 million worth of rupees worth not in the paycheck at the end of May. So if this is to carry on, it's going to be a very sad situation indeed, because obviously the people, the colleagues who work in these hotels but who come from the rural areas, they must be impacted dramatically.
Yeah.
Because that money is simply not there.
Yeah.
Now, Chris, the sort of bright things that are happening right now includes the lifting or relaxing of some of these travel advisories. Yeah. How will that impact now?
I mean, that's a good thing, and I think the government should be commended on that, because it was something that's done in quick succession, in quick time. So usually these things take like 6 months to come out, but they've done it in quick time, and you need to give credit to them. They've made it happen. And with that, now both the government and the private sector can go and promote tourism. You can't promote tourism if there's a ban on it. It makes no sense to say, come to Sri Lanka, these are my deals, and then they say, don't travel to Sri Lanka. Doesn't make sense. So they've done a difficult thing, and they've done it to the important countries that mean a lot to us. So that is good. Now they need to quickly move to the next step and say, look, promote it. And they have to have...
So we need some advertising.
You need some advertising. You need a budget for it. You need to say, this is your budget. You need to advertise. You need to get the right people to advertise. Yeah. You need to have the right message.
It mustn't be seen as a...
The other thing for us, when this all happened, one thing they should have done was very clear. They should have had one spokesperson. Somebody who talks, not 3-4 people talking to the media. When an event like this happens in a country, you should have one person as the spokesperson. That person gives out all the information and says, you can't have each and every person saying what they feel like it.
Should be a concentrated, coordinated
one person. That person speaks to all media, whether it's local or foreign media. They give out the information, which they didn't do. So it's important to carry the right message. Incidents happen, and it happened. It was unfortunate. We didn't see it happening. But they should have had one person to give that clear message to the international media, the local media, so that and they should have said, look, nobody can talk to the media. You're in the government, you will not talk to anybody, this is what it is. If that is the case, and they were clear, maybe they didn't have to block social media every other day and things like that. But I'm just thinking that's the way it should be. It's a thought of mine. But I think that's the right way to go.
That's Citizen Quyn speaking.
It should be.
Now then, there's a lot of sympathy out there for Sri Lanka as a whole. Yeah. I listened to a radio discussion in London, and people were debating whether they should travel to Sri Lanka or not. And there was quite a big number of people who were saying that it's probably the best time anyway, because now the security will be up, and therefore, and people were actually also not so concerned about the about reducing prices. They were not driven by that from the people that I heard on air. They seem to be more driven by the desire to be supportive of a beautiful country that they all had been yearning to visit or would visit again. So how does one capitalize on that?
See, for us, everybody who has come to Sri Lanka, whether it's been on business or purely as a tourist, have loved the country. They absolutely love the country. And if they were to come now, yes, one is because the rates are down and so you get a better deal. Two is there aren't many people around in the tourist location, so it's almost, you've got a private place to your own.
Right.
So it's a good time to come. And when they come, they'll realize, or everybody who's come even after this, they realize everything is now peaceful. So it is peaceful. It's up to the security forces to ensure that nothing happens again. But it is obviously a good time to come, and people who will come will have a great time and go off. So they promote it. If they come, they promote it.
So that's where we need to be headed.
Yeah.
And in the smaller hotels, obviously, where they don't rely so much on temporary staff and contract staff, I suppose they've been able to retain, or they're trying to retain by reducing rates, like you said before. Yeah. But what about all these people who are sort of part-time contract? They've probably all been laid off now.
All been laid off. For us, it's a difficult situation for them.
How many do you think the Colombo hotels alone would operate?
More than the Colombo hotels, I think, if you take the Colombo hotels and the hotels out of Colombo, a huge amount of people, I would say, easy 25,000 people would be laid off. Minimum 25,000, 30,000 people would be laid off.
And what are they paid daily, or they just paid weekly? Or?
Some are paid weekly, some are on a daily pay, some are hotel school trainees, so they finish a 6 months course and they go back to the hotel school. So there are a lot of people that would...
Are training programs still in place? Are they still training people?
Yeah. They are still training people, and people are still coming from hotel schools to the various hotels, and they do their training and they go off, and that will happen, and that does happen.
So the product is the same. Nothing's happened to the product. Our beaches, our cultural triangle, our diversity, the green carpeted hills and so on, are splendid hotels.
Yeah.
All the product is in place. It's there.
Yes, it is there.
It's there. So now all hinges on promotion.
Promotion is what we need to do at this hour, and take it from there onwards, and then as the tourist board will promote it, so will the private sector, and then we'll move forward from there.
And what you'd like to see as a person from the industry is a real commitment with a real date and a time to start and to stop. And maybe to say
by this time we would, be in these places, and there should be some sort of a plan that's
a specific timeline. Yeah. But you, in your opinion, which is fueled by 35 years of industry expertise, you reckon that it will take between 9 months and a year to bounce back?
Maybe a year to 18 months. I would say it will be minimum a year for things to get back, I would say, to about at least 70%, not 100%, 70%. And if you're looking at to get back to normal, it would take 1.5 to 2 years. You just can't get these things sorted out overnight. It doesn't happen. People have to come here, they have to experience it, they have to talk about it. Thousands have to come and experience this and go back. And then there has to be a sense of security that this will not happen again. It can't happen again.
It's good, isn't it, that the training is still going on?
Okay.
Because otherwise you may suddenly see an exodus of staff looking to move to overseas markets and overseas opportunities. Because that would then spell disaster for Sri Lanka, because we'd lose all our trained staff.
So you need to keep the staff, you need to train them, and ensure that they are ready when tourists come back.
In your operation, have you been officially notified of this moratorium and the facilities, this relief measures the government had announced?
Yes, they are. We are aware of it. It's out in the papers. It's gazetted. So it's going on, and we're waiting to see when it will start. But certain items have already got going. But we will have to wait and see how it goes.
Right. Well, Chris Quyn, thank you very much.
Thank you.
In a word, how optimistic are you for a return to normal?
It will. I'm quite confident that it will come back to normal. It will take maybe a year or so, like I said, but it will come back to normal. But providing everybody, works together, and the government makes sure that there are no other incidents and at least goes in the right direction to prevent it. I don't think anybody can say you can never stop it, but at least you are in the right direction to prevent it. So the measures are all there to prevent such things, and then be aware of it, not to come and say that we knew it and somebody else knew it and they didn't tell us, which is a load of rubbish.
It's a load of rubbish. Well, thank you very much, Chris Quyn, for being with us on Newsline, and that's the way it was on Newsline.
Thank you.
Do take care. Be careful out on the roads because it's wet, and of course, have a wonderful week ahead, a safe and wonderful week, and of course, God bless.
Thank you.
News First, Newsline with Faraz Shauketaly.